taping?
We are.
You asked for it, and you're going to get it.
Okay.
I am Archibald Thomas Nicholson Jr., born in Tarboro, North Carolina, which is about 100 miles in from the eastern coast of North Carolina. So finally graduated in June of 1940, barely graduating with honor. After graduation, I was assigned to the USS California battleship BB-44, which was stationed on the West Coast. 14 of our class were assigned to go to that ship. 5 of us, or 4 of us rather, were from the South. 3 from Georgia and 1 myself from North Carolina. So the 4 of us got together for a little vacation time right after graduation, and then took off for Bremerton, Washington, because California was in dry dock there at that time. We arrived at California. I was assigned to the main battery division, actually to the F division, which is fire control division, but my job entailed a duty with the main battery, which were 14-inch 50 caliber rifles, of which there were 4 turrets or 3 guns each. My job was in the plotting room, which is the direct controls of the gunfire of the main battery guns. It's down fairly deep in the ship. That was my battle station. Things went well. The ships operated, after getting out of dry dock, we operated up and down the West Coast for a little bit, and then out to Hawaii. And then it was in and out of Hawaii on training and shooting exercises, things of that nature, until the spring of 1941, we went back to Mare Island Navy Yard, not Mare Island, to Bremerton, Washington again, there to have several things done to the ship, including having the first radar of any of the ships installed. It was a big bed spring looking affair up on the foremast, which would pick up enemy ships and aircraft and some just very elementary type thing, but at least we had something going on the lines of radar. In the fall, I think October of 1941, we came back to the West Coast briefly, and I was able to get leave and fly home to North Carolina. I had really hardly been there, maybe a day, day and a half, when I got a telegram from the ship directing me to return immediately, and that was due to some problems in the Atlantic. I think the Reuben James, the destroyer, was sunk in the Atlantic by a German submarine. So back to the West Coast and to California I went, and shortly after that we took off for Hawaii again. There again, in and out, training throughout the month of November. On the 27th of November, which was a Thursday, we had a main battery firing practice and done pretty well at it. And we were down in the wardroom talking about it when we were all called up to the wing of the bridge by the gunnery officer. And when we got up there, he said, there have been some reports of enemy submarine activity in this general area. And we've also had a message indicating that things were pretty bad shape between Japan and the United States, and that we should take that message as a war warning to be prepared. All of us at that time thought that the Japanese were going to attack in Southeast Asia. In fact, they already had the troops headed that way, and probably Singapore, and possibly the Philippines. But nobody had a thought that they might come towards Hawaii. At any rate, gunnery officer said, "We're going into condition 3, boys, and I don't know when we're coming out." Sounded pretty ominous. We went on into port on Saturday, and I recall that the captain and the Admiral Pye, he was a vice admiral, and he was commander of battle force of the Pacific Fleet, got into the admiral's barge and took off for the commander-in-chief's headquarters. And we were still in condition 3 up to that point. They went ashore to the commander-in-chief's headquarters, and when they came back, they relaxed and told us to go out of condition 3, which I might explain, I should have explained. Condition 3 is a partial manning of the anti-aircraft batteries and the secondary batteries, which were also 5-inch guns. We're manning 2 guns and 1 director, just in the case of some kind of attack. And after they came back, we did secure from condition 3 and went to a normal import routine. Going ashore that afternoon, we noticed as we went into Honolulu that certain places were being guarded by Army troops, like bridges, water plants, electric plants, things of that nature. So we knew some kind of alert was going on, ashore at least, but we were still not particularly concerned about any attack at Pearl Harbor. On Saturday, the 6th of December, which is just a week later, I had the duty beginning on Saturday morning. I had the duty once during the day, and then I was assigned the morning watch, which starts at midnight. Actually, the mid-watch, which starts at midnight and goes to 4 o'clock in the morning. So I was routed out about 3:30 or so, went up and took over the deck as officer the deck of the ship. Now, the officer deck of the ship is in charge of the administration and the running of the ship, operation of the ship while in port, under the watchful eye, of course, of the senior officer who is a command duty officer, and possibly, and whenever the captain and executive aboard, well, he'd be under there, too. However, the captain and executive officer were ashore. They both had families there in Honolulu. They were ashore that night. The watch that I had was very quiet, nothing much going on. I talked to the junior officer deck quite a bit, who was a second lieutenant Marine Corps, Cliff Drake. And we got discussing the world situation and our problems with Japan. And we both knew it was pretty touchy, but we didn't think anything in particular would happen. But I did say to him, he asked me what I thought might happen. I said, well, I don't know. They may be headed this way right now, Cliff. Anyway, sun came up over the hills that morning. It was a beautiful Sunday morning. The harbor was quiet, not a ripple in the water. We were in a line of battleships that were tied up alongside Pearl Harbor. And we cut it right here from there. All right, to continue and to sort of set the scene for what happened on that day, this is a sketch of Pearl Harbor. In the middle of Pearl Harbor is Ford Island, which was the Navy Air Base. They had runways here, and also they flew flying boats out of there, which took off right here in the water off of Ford Island. We had all these battleships in at that time. The California, being the flagship of Commander Battle Force, was here at this peak, actually tied up to 2 big concrete keys just off the island, or just off of Ford Island. California was here alone, and next behind here was Maryland tied up here with the Oklahoma tied up outboard of her. Then behind them, the Tennessee inboard with the West Virginia tied up outboard, and the stern of them was Arizona alone, except she had a tender alongside of her at the time of the attack. And Nevada was tied up astern of her alone. Many years later, after my daughter became married to Joe Van Ivra, we found out that his father was also at Pearl Harbor that day, and he was aboard the St. Louis, a light cruiser, and St. Louis was tied up at this position over close to the Navy Yard dry dock. But getting back now to the story, it was a beautiful morning. We had sent boats in, of course, to return Liberty parties from the shore. They'd come down to a landing down in here and back to the California, and sent boats in, of course, to pick up fresh supplies like vegetables and that sort of thing, and milk. All that was about done. It's now approaching 7:45, and it's almost time for me to get off watch. I had made plans with Bob Kirkpatrick, who was a classmate of mine, to go up to Oahu Country Club and play golf that morning. So I was looking forward to that. I was also looking forward to having a nice breakfast down in the junior officer's mess, which was right down below where I was standing my watch. So I had called down and told them to be sure and get me a little breakfast steak ready. I'd be down there in about 10 or 15 minutes. And I was looking forward to that, too. Jim Elson, who was an ensign out of the class in 1939, came on deck at that time to relieve me as officer of the deck. And it takes a few minutes to run over the details of what's going on. And I told him, that being Sunday, we were going to have church services up on the forecastle, and the 1st Division had gone up there, and they had rigged awning over the forecastle and brought the organ up there in preparation for divine services on that morning. I had told him all there was really to tell him, and I was anxious to get on down for breakfast and get to my golf game. And we were actually in the process of relieving. He was relieving me as officer of the deck. He said, "I'm ready to relieve you." I said, "I'm ready to be relieved." And we're standing there in that position when we heard something unusual. We looked up and saw planes diving. We were on the starboard quarter deck, and the planes were diving this way. And you think of a lot of things in a very short time in a situation like that, but I immediately thought, it can't be the Navy. They wouldn't be doing such a thing on a Sunday morning. It must be the Army Air Corps, who don't know any better. At any rate, this plane that we saw came out of his dive, pulled up, and a little black object continued to fall down in toward a hangar over in this area right here. So I thought, well, they must bomb some kind of a water target that they put over here on a raft. About that time, this hangar exploded. All sorts of things flying in the air. And I knew something was wrong. And then we realized, Jim and I both, that that plane had big red meatballs on the wings. And it was a Japanese plane. So Jim actually had taken over the officer's deck job from me, so he sounded the general alarm right away and passed the word for everyone to go to battle stations. And I headed for my main battery battle station in the plotting room down below decks. I'd hardly got started when I realized there's really no point in going down to the main battery plotting room. I had a Condition 3 watch in the anti-aircraft battery, and it'd be a whole lot better place for me to go. So, and then it occurred to me, a lot of people down below decks don't really believe what's happening up here. So I ran down through the junior officers' country and into the wardroom, which is where the senior officers take their meals, and on that back down through the second deck, where all the staff officers lived, and the admiral's quarters near the stern of the ship, passing the word to them that we were being attacked by the Japanese. I misspoke a moment ago. Not the stern of the ship, the bow of the ship. The admiral was up forward there, and the chief of staff. So I saw the staff duty officer and the marine orderly, marine orderly. Admiral was not aboard. He was at home too. I passed the word, that we were this is real. We were actually being attacked. And then I went down the other side of the ship, port side, back through the wardroom again, and the junior officers' mess, passing the word, and went on up into the foremost, took those ladders going up in the foremost where my room was, stopped briefly and told my roommate, Hookie Walker, that what was happening in Carrie Hall, who lived in a room across the hall from me. So we all they had to get the clothes on, and I went on up to the forward directory in the mainmast, at the anti-aircraft directory, where my battle station was for condition 3 watch. On the way up the ladders, I felt the ship take a heavy jolt. I knew something had hit us. As it turned out later, it was the first torpedo that hit the ship as I was going up there. I climbed into the director, and several enlisted men had arrived about the same time, and we turned on the switches for power and no power. We lost power right away with that torpedo hit, so there's nothing really to do up there in the directors. I thought, well, the next best thing is for me to go down and take over control of the starboard battery of 5-inch 25 guns. We had 4 guns on the starboard side that were controlled by one of the directors, and 4 on the port side controlled by the other director. I knew that it was probable that whoever would have been in charge of that group of guns on the starboard side was ashore, so I went down and took charge of that side. Carrie Hall took the roommate, the classmate of mine who I just had awakened, went to the port side, so we manned that and began to try to get the guns firing. They were manned immediately. Everybody was up there. The only problem we had was the ready boxes where ammunition is stored for a quick action were locked. So we had to pry the locks off of the lockers and get the ammunition out of there. And of course there was a limited supply of ammunition there. So we began firing as fast as we could. Once I got a little squared away up there, and it's not many minutes now, it took me to get there, maybe 5. I'm looking ahead. California, as I say, is located here. The entrance to Pearl Harbor is down here, runs just about north and south. It's quite a narrow entrance here, quite narrow. And looking, I'm standing here on the starboard side, looking in this direction, and I see the V-shaped formation of planes coming along towards us like this, just slowly moving up there. They're at about 12,000 feet or so. And suddenly, from the planes, I saw what it all looked almost as if it dropped a handful of confetti or maybe paper objects. Everything was fluttering around up there. But as they came closer, they began to take shape, and all of a sudden they began to look like they're coming right straight at me, which is a little unsettling. At any rate, they were dropping bombs right down the line of the battleships here. One bomb hit here, just off the port bow, but it didn't hit the ship, but it was close enough that the explosion of the bomb opened up a big hole here in this side of the ship. Meanwhile, we'd already caught a torpedo. The torpedo planes had come in this way and across here to all these ships. We had caught a torpedo here, and then that bomb hit. Then, at just what point it happened, I don't know. But one of these bombs from the high-level bombers was a 15-inch projectile fitted out to make it like a bomb. It's an armor-piercing projectile, and it hit here on the starboard side, just after where I was. I wasn't aware even that it had gone by me, but it didn't miss me more than 10 feet. I found out later. It went down through several decks and exploded right in the middle of an ammunition passing line that had been set up to see. We'd lost all power, and we couldn't get ammunition up the regular hoist. So we had to form a line of enlisted men to pass ammunition from the magazines all the way up to the guns. It was not a very good way to do it, but it's the only way we had. But this bomb exploded on the second deck right there in the middle of that ammunition passing line, and that's where we lost just about all the people that we did lose, which was about 90 people, enlisted and officers, several officers, but mostly enlisted men. That first attack was over in about 30 minutes. The high-level bombers had come, and in the meantime, we began to get dive bombers coming in on us from this direction, coming down on us like this. And I saw them coming. They were coming in from the port side, so our guns couldn't fire at them, and we were out of ammunition anyway by that time. Watching these planes coming down, and you could see that the guns winking as they came in. It was strafing us, and what did these things really do but just stand there? And they had come and gone very quickly. Missed with all their bombs. They did tear up the deck a little bit with their machine gun bullets. Then there was a lull between the first attack and the second attack. And truly, everybody on that ship, especially the people up topside, were in a state of real shock. So everybody was reacting properly and doing exactly what they should have been doing, but nevertheless in shock. During the lull, once this dive bombing attack finished, the junior medical officer came along and had a canteen in his hand, and he looked at me and said, "I think you need a little of this." I thought it was water, and it may have been, but I kind of think it wasn't, because he turned away to talk to somebody. After giving me the canteen, I tipped it up and really took down 4 or 5 big gulps of it. And it may have been medicinal whiskey, I'm not sure, but just plain old bourbon probably. So my actions right after that would indicate that maybe it was that and not water. But anyway, that attack seemed to be over. And by that time, Ensign Tom Murphy had shown up, and that was his job, that starboard battery. So he took over, and it left me with nothing to do in particular, except to go down and see what I could do to help in other parts of the ship. Meanwhile, these ships had all been hit back here. The Arizona had exploded. It must have been one heck of an explosion. I don't remember ever hearing it. All I know is there was a lot of noise going on in Pearl Harbor that day, and the Arizona explosion was just one of them. But torpedoes had hit Oklahoma, and I remember looking around maybe 10 minutes after the attack started, and the Oklahoma was not there. The Maryland was there by herself. I thought she got underway. Then I saw the turn of her bilge come up above the water. I realized she had taken so many torpedoes on the port side that she just had rolled over, capsized, taking everybody down with her, most everybody. She lost a lot of people. West Virginia also got some torpedoes, of course. Arizona's problem really was that one of the bombs went down and exploded in or near a powder magazine main battery powder magazine, and that's what blew the ship up. Nevada got underway. I didn't realize she had, but while the dive bombing attack was going on, or just after our dive bombing attack, I remembered seeing the Nevada come by us right here on her way out. And just about here, a group of dive bombers went after her and really tore her up. Not much she could do about it. So she was standing on out and realized that she'd been hit enough that she might not make it out the channel, and she might sink here in the channel and block everything inside. So the senior officer on board who had gotten her underway decided the smartest thing to do was to put her aground right here on the hospital point, which he did. And that left the channel open for others to get out. And one of the ships that did get up and go out of there that morning was the St. Louis, who came from here. And he came out and backed out of there and then came on out and out to. So much for the attack. After I'd had my drink of water or whatever it was, I decided I'd go down to the quarterdeck and see what I could do down there, because burning oil was coming down on us from the ship's astern there, and we were going to be engulfed by those flames if you couldn't do something about it. So I went down with the idea of helping to keep that oil away from the ship. Ship, in the meantime, of course, couldn't get out of the way because she'd already been hit and lost all power too quickly. So we were just forced to stay there. As I went down towards the quarterdeck, I had to go through the butcher shop. And I really didn't realize where I was when I went through the butcher shop. All I knew was they'd been preparing meat for the morning meal. And I didn't realize where I was, and I saw all this blood and gore in there, and I thought something terrible had happened here. Lying on the deck was a big butcher's knife about this long, big wooden handle on it. And I thought, well, I'll take that along, it might come in handy. So I grabbed it, took it on down the quarterdeck. And here I am in my white uniform. Got down the quarterdeck. Just about time I got there, the word was passed on the ship to abandon ship. The captain had come aboard. In the meantime, he'd gotten there, and the admiral had come back. But the word was passed to abandon ship. So I took off my uniform down to my skivvies, folded them up real neatly, and stuck them under a boat winch that was nearby. And took my knife and put it down on that. And I started walking across the gangway off onto the quay, where I would either jump in the water and swim ashore, or maybe a boat would come along and take us off. But I got down on the quay, and I looked back at the ship, and I looked back at the situation, and it looked pretty bad. Didn't look like to me the ship was in that much trouble, so I walked back aboard and put my pants back on. And meanwhile, people were swarming up on deck and coming down from the foretop and the main top and so on, and going over the side and swimming to Pearl Harbor, to Fort Island. So we had some big life rafts that were lashed to the side of the mast structure. And of course, there's a ladder that led up all the way up into the mast. So I took my big knife and I climbed up there until I could get at the lashings that held those life rafts, and I was chopping them down, with the knife, and they're falling on deck. And then people would take them and push them over and flip them over the side in the water, or try to. And after I chopped them down, I went down on deck and went over. One of the rafts was alongside the lifeline, and 4 or 5 sailors were trying to manhandle that thing over the side. And I came up and said, "Stand back," and flipped it over. So I didn't really realize that it happened until I was over on Ford Island later on in the day, and some sailors behind me were talking, and I heard one of them talking about it, and he told me that's what happened. So I think it's just that, you know, your adrenaline gets flowing so heavy that you can do almost anything. It's superhuman strength, really, which I don't have a lot of on there. Anyway, the rest of the day, I spent helping do what I could. We got fire hoses going to ward off the oil, burning oil was coming down on us, and we managed to keep it pretty much away from the ship that way. We were also we were worried about California doing the same thing that Oklahoma did, capsize, because she'd been hit on the port side by either 2 or 3 torpedoes, I forget now, and that bomb that opened up a hole. So she was leaning heavily, maybe 10 degrees or so to port, as if she wanted to go around. All the lines were as taut as they could be. And by lines, I'm talking about wire rope of that size. I suggested that we try to get the anchor chain out and roust it around one of the keys and bring it back aboard. And we were busy trying to do that, but it turned out to be more of a job than we could really get done, so that never got finished. Many people were trapped down below decks. It was dark, no lights down there. Oily. People that coming out, they brought oil with them, and of course there's water on the deck too. So I went down below several times trying to help find people who needed help. Never found anybody that I could assist up, but so mostly I was up on deck at the time. But the second attack came on in, that started about 8:40 or 8:45, and it lasted about 30 minutes or so. So a lot of what I'm telling you here probably has already happened in that second attack. That's really the end of that day. Once things quieted down after the attack had finished, which was about 9:30, we did go over onto Ford Island. I think I went over by boat, and we spent that evening. Couldn't go back to board the ship because they were still concerned about whether the ship was going to stay afloat or whether she was going to capsize. So it was essentially abandoned. I neglected to mention earlier that when the order was given to abandon ship, and I went off about to abandon and came back on board because it didn't look so bad. Shortly after that, another order was given rescinding the order to abandon ship. That was done by one of the staff officers. Good thing it did because there was really no need to abandon. We cut it for a moment. Okay, so that really is about all there was to the attack itself. Joe, all I can tell you about it anyway. Anything I can make clearer for you?
Well, I had a couple questions, but first was, I'm trying to figure it out, you were 24 years old.
Yeah, 24.
You turned 24 the previous summer.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been, you had a commission in the Navy for a little over a year and a half?
Mm-hmm. That's right. And incidentally, you know, there's a couple of things about that. One of them is that ordinarily you would be an ensign for 3 years before you got promoted to lieutenant junior grade, the second, O2 step. And the other is that the Naval Academy, the Navy had a policy at that time when we graduated that we could not get married for the first 2 years after graduation, which I think was a really good thing in the case of most of my classmates. Some of them got married anyway, and a few of them got caught having got married and got discharged from the Navy. others, I think people knew about it, but just didn't say anything about it. I mean, the commanding officers and so on. But we couldn't get married, and I had no thought about doing it anyway. Yeah.
Now, from reading about Pearl Harbor and all, it was a very unbelievable thing with a lot of the officers in the service. They just couldn't believe it was happening, even though there had been talk, and as you mentioned, that we'd even been on the Alert 3 or whatever it was.
Yeah, Condition 3 was.
But when this began to unfold in front of your eyes, and of course, as you had said, you were real busy, and you did things even to the point of doing things that would be almost deemed physically impossible. But after that kind of, it began to settle in, what kind of feelings of disbelief were there, or were there?
Well, within an hour or so, there was absolutely no question about what had happened to us. It had happened. We were still in shock that it did happen. But all sorts of reports were rolling in at this time. But having hit us, and hit us so successfully, we certainly thought the Japanese would have been following up with landings. And there were many reports of landings on the other side of the island, over at County Orange, where the Marine Air Base was, and landings, well, a number of different places. At Barber's Point, there were reports there were 2 battleships off Barber's Point, and troops were landing. There were many reports that the city of Honolulu was being bombed. It wasn't being bombed, not by the Japanese. These were 5-inch shells that were exploding in the city, because they were not self-destroying anti-aircraft shells. Later on, we had some that, as they got a certain distance, they would explode in the air. But no, everybody knew it had happened all right. The only question was what was going to happen next. And it's just amazing that the Japanese didn't do it.
Yeah.
I read the account by Commander Fushida, who was the leader of the whole Japanese air attack. He developed a plan for it, and they saw it, that it was executed. And when he saw it, he stuck around after he had gotten rid of his bombs. He stuck around to see what happened, and he could see how much damage they'd done. And when he got back to his ship, he reported to the admiral and said they should strike again, which the admiral decided not to do for whatever reason. If he had, it could have caused a great deal of damage. I'm really surprised that they simply went after the ships in the first place. They should have gone for the fuel farms and destroyed our supplies there. She's gone to the Navy Yard to break up the shops at the Navy Yard. They could have made it very difficult for us for a number of months into the war if they'd done that. And even maybe a landing later on. It could have happened. They elected not to do it. Another matter about this Pearl Harbor thing is this. Everybody was, of course, amazed at the amount of damage done to our battle line. But think how much damage it might have been if we had enough warning to get underway and get out. We didn't have an aircraft carrier there at the time. They had 6. And our anti-aircraft was not all that good at that time. And there was all those battleships that we saw at Pearl Harbor. Might be lying on the bottom of the ocean. It might have been all sunk out there. But it really didn't problem. So fortunately, it's sort of fortunate in a way that we were not able to get underway. And all of these battleships, except for the Oklahoma here, the Capt, all the rest of them that were damaged were eventually raised from the bottom and sent back to the West Coast and
Except
refurbished, and then all but the Arizona, of course, yeah, which really destroyed itself right there.
Well, that
And
was
it's still there.
my next question was the California. Did that actually see action again then?
Oh yeah, yeah, all of them did, except the Arizona and the Oklahoma. They actually raised the Oklahoma, for that matter, and there was some question about whether they would not modernize her and put her back in service, but they elected not to do it because by that time the new style battleships in North Carolina class were coming out in pretty good numbers, and there wasn't much point in taking an old ship like the Oklahoma and doing much with her.
Okay, then after the attack, how long was it before you got assigned to another ship?
So, sometime, what happened was it decided that these battleships that were immobilized at their piers had good guns on board. So they decided to beef up the air defense of Pearl Harbor by taking those guns and the directors off the ship, moving them ashore. So they set up 5 different anti-aircraft, 5 or 6 anti-aircraft batteries. Each battery consisted of 4 guns with a director. And I got assigned to one of those. Several weeks after the attack, around about the 1st of January, I guess, our battery was set up just at the Navy Yard gate, and actually on Hickam Field with the Army Air Corps air base. So we were set up right there. We had the 4 guns in a square and the director right in the middle, and there was an underground command post from which we operated the director and the gun. So I was assigned to that, along with Gary Hall, Campbell Hall, several of my classmates, and people out of the class of 39, and my old division officer, Lieutenant Purdy. So we stood regular heel-to-toe watches on that battery for quite a while. After we'd been at it for a month or so, they began to bring in Army anti-aircraft troops, and we began training them how to use those guns and how to run the director. This went on for 4 or 5 months until they were in a position where they could take over and man them for us. The defense of Pearl Harbor was the Army job, not the Navy. So we turned it over to them.
And was the next ship you went on, was that the Columbia?
Oh yeah, and I think in April, I kind of forget the time on this, I was sent back to the States to put a cruising commission. It turned out to be the Columbia. And she's a light cruiser, and she had 4 turrets and 3 guns each. These are 6-inch turrets, 6-inch 47s, and 6 twin 5-inch 38 gun mounts. And of course, the necessary directors and plotting rooms to control the fire. So I went back to that ship, and my job on there was I had to go back to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The ship was being built there in the shipyard. It was almost ready, so we went back and pre-commissioning detail. Got her all set to go, and then she was commissioned, and we moved aboard and went out for some minimum training out in the Atlantic. Of course, we had all new people, green hands on board. It was quite a chore, but we got everybody in pretty good shape. I was assigned to be the 2nd Division officer, which is the main battery division on the stern of the ship. We had turrets 3 and 4, and catapult. We used to launch and scout planes. We had 5 to start with. We had 5 planes scout, SOCs, scout planes. That was an interesting job back there because we were constantly shooting those planes off with the catapults, and Columbia, once you got in commission and trained, took off to the South Pacific, and we got down to Noumea, which is New Caledonia. And when we got there, we found that there was only one other cruiser available in the South Pacific at that time. They just did a big battle, several big battles up around Guadalcanal. And a number of cruisers, even sunk or had bows shot off, and we were in pretty bad shape. But the USS Helen, a light cruiser, was in Noumea when we came in, and we came up full alongside. And we got tied up. I looked across on the Helen, the 2nd Division over there was Dick Cochran, a classmate of mine. And he says, "Tommy, we're glad to see you. We're the only cruiser left out there." Anyway, I stayed on the Columbia for over 2 years. And we're involved in a lot of action around up in the slot in the Solomons, the slot leading up generally toward the Philippines. The Solomon Islands ran this way. New Guinea was over here, and I think it was General MacArthur, who was the rescue from the Philippines area. We're coming up this way. We're coming up this side toward Rabaul, which is a big Navy base at the top of that triangle. And the last big action that I was in was the Battle of Interested yesterday, where we landed Marines and the Army troops on Bougainville Island. We took that island from the Japanese. By that time, they were really in full retreat back towards Japan. I got off in the spring of '43, and no, spring of '44, and went back to put another light cruising commission. I didn't know what I was going to do when I went, but when I got there, I was going to go to Springfield. Meanwhile, just a matter of interest, one of my junior division officers was in Templeton Army classes. They were kind of class 43. And he had been detached just a little before I from the Columbia, and he was supposed to go to submarine school, but when he got back and checked in and went through the physical, they turned him down. I don't know exactly what the reason he was turned down physically was, but he didn't get in submarines. And I got up, came back, and reported in the pre-commissioning detail for the Springfield up in Boston. They had us doing a lot of inconsequential things up there, and I thought I ought to go and get some training because I thought I was going to become the main battery assistant on this ship, and I hadn't had any main battery experience or very little main battery experience on the Columbia. So I got them as right order and sent me down to Washington Navy Yard to some courses down there to learn more about the main battery guns. And down there, I ran into Templeton. He had been sent down there to school as well. In the meantime, he had gotten married. And his wife, Pat, and he lived pretty close to where we were going to school, so he took me up to dinner and to meet Pat one night. And I saw them several times, in the course of the time I was there. And after a month or so, they were finished with the schooling, and they went on up to the Boston area to check in with the Springfield, because I had gotten his orders changed to Beaufort, so he would go to Springfield along with me. A few weeks later, I got finished with my job and my training, and I went on up to and checked in at Springfield, pre-commissioning detail, and we were almost ready to put the ship in commission by that time. And Templeton was the one who ought to marry Gil, although Gil was already engaged to a young fellow who was in school to become a dentist. So she came up, and we had a good time there for a week. And after the week was over, she decided she could stay a second week, so she did. And at the end of the second week, well, during the second week, we kind of decided that maybe we should get married. So my brother Don had gotten in the Navy by this time, and he had been assigned to submarine duty, and he was about to put a submarine commission up in near New London. So we were so close by, we went up to see him, and they said that they felt that two of us ought to get married too. So at the end of the 2 weeks, I went back down to New Jersey with Gil to meet her parents. At the end, found them to be very, really nice and pleasant indeed. So we told them that we wanted to get married, and they thought that would be fine. So I went back to the ship to get the ship put in commission a week later, which happened. Meanwhile, they're getting ready for the wedding to take place in New Jersey. They put the ship in commission on the 9th of September 1944. And I went down on the train on Friday the 15th of September, and we were married on the 16th. Then we found a place to live for a while in Boston until the ship was ready to shove off, go out for training. And after that, Gil and Pat went back down to New Jersey, and we went out for training down in the South Atlantic. When we came back at the end of the training period, getting ready to go overseas, they came down to Norfolk, Virginia, so we would get up a little bit before we took off to go out to the Pacific again. In Springfield, right at the last minute, was assigned to go with a group to take President Roosevelt to the Yalta Conference. So we were one of the escorts in that group. We went halfway across the Atlantic towards Africa with them, and then other ships met us out there and took them the rest of the way. We turned and went for the Panama Canal and on out through the Pacific. And then got in quite a bit of action out there. Kamikazes were becoming famous by this time. It's a pretty scary business. But our ship never got hit. We got down quite a few. I neglected to mention that I didn't turn out to be the main battery assistant after all. I turned out to be the assistant gunnery officer and the air defense officer. So my job was knocking down those kamikazes. So I stayed down there until the end of the war. At the end of the war, most of the ships, a lot of ships, went on back to the United States, but some had to stay out in the Western Pacific. Springfield was one of them. So we stayed busy. Well, I'm really getting ahead of myself here because go back to the Okinawa campaign. We finally did capture Okinawa, and we had established bases in the Marianas for the big Air Force bombers to pound Japan. And that was going on. And meanwhile, we were going up with task groups and making forays along the Japanese coast and shooting out coastal cities, that sort of thing. And eventually, as you know, the President Truman agreed to drop the atomic bomb with a big surprise to all of us. And shortly after that, the Japanese capitulated. So when that happened and the war was over, Springfield was ordered on up to Tokyo Bay and her friend Pat both came out to meet the ship there on the West Coast, and so we lived out there for several months. Meanwhile, the ship was about to be sent back out. In the summer of '46, we sent back out to the Western Pacific. So Joe's mother had come out to join us because Joe had found out that she was going to have a baby in a few months. And we just got an automobile and piled them into that, and they took off for the East Coast, and the Springfield went back out to the Western Pacific for quite a few months. So she got back to New Jersey with her mother, and in February, Doug was born. This was February of 1947. I was out in the Western Pacific. I was on Guam at the time, but I got the word about that. Finally, in June of '47, I got back and got the text from the ship. I was next to the last plank on our officer to get off of that ship. One out to the left there, like that. I was glad to. I enjoyed that ship, but I was glad to get rid of it and get on back to the East Coast and meet my new son, my wife. So got back to the East Coast and met up with them. And meanwhile, I'd gotten orders to go to the Naval Academy to be an instructor in ordnance and gunnery, which I did for the next 3 years. And right at the end of that 3 years, Nancy was born on the 23rd of May, 1950. By this time, I already had orders, too, to leave Naval Academy and go back to Norfolk, Virginia, to the USS Hank as the executive officer destroyer. So, down to Norfolk for that. Went aboard the Hank as executive officer, and within a month or so, the Korean War broke out. And guess who got us to go on the first group of ships? The Hank. So off we went, and 9 months later that we came back from there. It was a pretty busy tour then, ranging up and down the east coast of Korea, shooting at the enemy troops and trying to put up bridgeheads and things of that nature, power plants, and firing gunfire support for both Army troops and Marine troops that were there. And it was a pretty hairy situation there until we managed to, MacArthur actually directed a landing at Incheon, which is on about halfway up the west coast of Korea, and that landing caught them by surprise and pushed them all the way almost completely out of North Korea. But at that time, Chinese elected to come in and help the North Koreans. So they made a big push and pushed all our troops back south at a pretty rapid rate, and it began to look like a complete stop. And so I think it was Christmas Eve of 1951 that we took all the troops out of North Korea. They all managed to get to the coastline, and they all floated into troop ships and other kinds of ships. We were involved in that, giving gunfire support, primitive gunfire support to keep it safe in there while the retreat was going on. We call it a strategic redeployment. That's the big word for a retreat. Soon after that, we came back to the States, and I got command of the USS Strong, another destroyer, and had a good tour of duty on that. Again, maybe 6 months after I got aboard, the Strong was ordered to go to Korea as well, so we had another trip out there. This one was better. Being a skipper is a whole lot better than being a tech. So that was a good tour for us. The ship did well. Everything was supposed to do and break down at any time. Got involved in quite a few gun well, several gunfights with the shore batteries. And eventually, at the end of that tour, which was really about 4 months on the station out there, we came home, but this time, instead of going back the way we had come out, we went around the world, down to Singapore and Colombo, Ceylon, which is Sri Lanka now, and then in the Persian Gulf to Bahrain, out of there to Aden, down on the Red Sea, and on up through the Suez Canal and to the port in Italy, and then one in France, and home. I'll try to wrap it up quickly from there. After that, I turned over my destroyer when I got back in December of 51. 51. I turned the destroyer over to another commander, and I went to the free training center there in Norfolk. We spent 3 years there. And that was all. I had orders to go to Hawaii to the staff as Commander-in-Chief Pacific Fleet, which we did, and we spent 2 years out there, and we all enjoyed 2 years in Hawaii very much. After Hawaii was over, I had orders to go back to the West Coast and to become executive officer of a heavy cruiser in the USS Columbus. And we got settled in Long Beach, California, and I went aboard that ship and was executive officer about a year and a half. And meanwhile, I had been selected for captain, but I hadn't made it yet. But new admiral in charge of Cruiser Division 5 selected me to be his chief of staff. So I left first Columbus and flew back out to Japan to take over as chief of staff to Admiral Miller, who comes to this side. And I stayed with him for about 6 months or so until a new Admiral Beckton came along and relieved him, and I remained with that until actually Admiral Beckton and another admiral relieved him just at the time I was leaving. I had orders at that time to come back to Washington, D.C. for duty. But twice the last minute it got changed, and I went to Panama. I was asked if I wanted to go to Panama. So Gil and I thought that'd be a good idea. So we took those orders, went on down to Panama, and spent 3 years down there working for a joint staff headed by an Army general. And our numbing job down there was involved with logistics, and I was the deputy director of the division that had to do with military assistance for the South American and Central American navies. That was an interesting job, but a tough one. Then I had orders to come back to the States and put the USS Neosho, or not put her in commission, but to relieve as commanding officer the Neosho. USS Neosho was one of the fleet oilers, which is a tanker, but it's one that's capable of not only carrying oil from place to place, which a tanker does, but also parceling it out to ships along the way. So fuel them at sea. That's what we call it, the oil. So I got there and let's have a year on board that ship. It was very good. I enjoyed that. At the end of that time, I got orders to go to the Commander-in-Chief Atlantic Fleet staff. I was in charge of the administrative division. And that was not a whole lot of fun. I had an admiral there that I didn't care a whole lot for, and who didn't care a whole lot for me. So I was able to talk my friends into Washington and give me some orders to go somewhere. They did. And it turned out to be to a job on the staff of Center Service Group 3, stationed in south of Japan on the west coast of Japan. So packed up the family and took them out there. We spent 2 years out there. At least half of my time was spent. This is what they wanted me on the staff for, to be off running the logistics ships off of Vietnam during the Vietnam War. And, that was a really interesting ship. Tour duty. I had a good time doing that. And finally, this was in 1965. So we went there in 1967. I finished up with that. And eventually, at that time, the Navy finally got hold of me and sent me to the Pentagon in Washington. Took them 27 years to catch me. I went there in 1967 and finished out in 1970. UED. So what can I tell you?
Well, that's a lot. Obviously, you survived Pearl Harbor.
Oh, yeah. Fortunately.
And there were, how many casualties? Over 2,000? Pearl Harbor?
At Pearl Harbor, there were about 2,400 killed and about 1,200 more wounded. So pretty close to 4,000 troops. Navy and, naval sailors and troops.
So if you had it to do over again, would you do it again?
I'd start it again, yeah. I think I'd do it a little differently along the way. No, really, it's a great life for me, and we've enjoyed it. I think my family has too.
Well, I'll sign off here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity of showing it to you.
And we'll have to do this again.
All right, let's do it.
All right.